What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? It's Matty P here with another episode in the Steelers War Room YouTube series that we have here on Steelers Touchdown Under. We've got a growing fan base here. If you're watching this as one of your third, fourth, fifth, even second, first video, you're liking the content, make sure you're hitting the like button, make sure you're hitting the subscribe button. Want to bring you a quick show, a couple of minutes, nothing too big, really about why George Pickens should learn, not only be practicing with and learning from San Antonio Holmes. Why should San Antonio Holmes' career and stats be an absolute minimum benchmark for George Pickens and something he can really aspire to over the course of his first few seasons in the league? So the first thing I wanted to do to give you a sense of why this actually relates and why they're quite similar as well, and why it's a good reason. It's a good thing that not only is Pickens learning from him now, that Pickens can try and better that. And that's all San Antonio Holmes would want of George Pickens as well. So George Pickens last year had 84 targets. He had 52 receptions for 801 yards, 4 TDs, which we know about, 15.4 yards per reception. When he got drafted, I said he should try and hit a 14.3 or better. He delivered a whole 1.1 yards extra to that. So really impressive season from him as a rookie. Just missed out on 62% catch percentage. We want to see that go up. But the combat catches, we all know that stat where he was averaging about 74% combat catches. That's huge, or contested catches is probably the better term for it. That is absolutely huge, particularly when you're a rookie. He's got a bit of height to him. He's got a bit of size. He's about 6'3". Some people say he's high 6'2s. He's about 200 pounds, give or take 5 either way. I always think he always ticks over 200 pounds. I think he looks about 206, 208, but plays fast, really quick guy. It's just awesome to see how he's adjusting to the league. He played 76% of the offensive snaps last year, has a 4.47 40-yard time. I don't think he can go better. You've seen him go against JPJ. Definitely a player that's going to do awesome things in the black and gold. But how does this compare to San Antonio Holmes? Now, obviously, we can't sit there and compare George Pickens' career versus San Antonio Holmes'. But we will look at what San Antonio Holmes did in his career in terms of how Pickens needs to develop and the consistency that's required. But they're kind of eerily similar, some of these stats that you see in front of you. Now, granted, George Pickens played an extra game. We've moved on from 16 to 17 game seasons. AV there is approximate value. So those of you not familiar, Pro Football Reference assign a grade to each player based on their how close they are to the best person at their position each year, or the top performers. If there's people on the same score, 7 or 8 from a rookie wide receiver is really, really, really good. So there's nothing you can sort of sit there and argue about that. Obviously, San Antonio was the first-round pick. George Pickens was the second-round pick. So that's what you would want out of San Antonio Holmes, but really good delivery from George Pickens. Obviously, we know Pickens had the injury. There were questions about his attitude as well, or his off-the-field stuff. I don't think that's been an issue from the Steelers' perspective. I love that they took the punt on him. I think he's great. I didn't really see that. I love it. But let's get back to the stats. If you look at all of this sort of thing, you look at this: 49 receptions for San Antonio Holmes, 52 for George Pickens. You look at this: 824 yards for San Antonio Holmes, 801 yards for George Pickens. Now, obviously, with less receptions, San Antonio Holmes averages more there with 16.8 yards per reception versus 15.4 for George Pickens. You're also talking about Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky versus Ben Roethlisberger. That kind of tells you just how good a season George Pickens quietly had last year. 4 TDs versus 2 TDs. I'm sure George Pickens much rather is having 24 yards less or 23 yards less for the year and having an extra 2 TDs compared to what San Antonio Holmes would probably do the switch up straight away if he had his time again. Fantasy points is actually a lot higher, George Pickens. That doesn't really make a big difference for these guys. What it does do is tell you that the statistical output has a big difference. There's even a rush TD from Pickens. You didn't see that from San Antonio Holmes. Also punt and returning stuff. You didn't see from that George Pickens. You did see that from San Antonio Holmes. Those stats there are probably the reason why he's on an 8 AV versus a 7 or a 6. So they had a very statistical similar year. That's kind of interesting. So what does that mean then for the future? Well, San Antonio Holmes, he had an interesting sort of career. Obviously won Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the other thing about it and how that amazing catch with Ben, so he kicked off with 824. The next year he went 942, 18.1 yards per reception. Huge for him. And I think that's bolder because it is actually, league leader. Thought so. So he led the league at 23 in yards per reception. Maybe that could be a cool goal for George Pickens this year. 8 TDs, his second best year or equal best year ever. 42 first downs, catch percentage, of 61.2%, yards per game, 72.5, yards per target, 11.1. He had a rushing TD as well. He didn't do that much rushing. He rushed 5 times for one first down when I'm looking at that there. Then went at 821, then went in 2009, went 1,248, average 15.8. Had another 5 TDs. Then he went over to the Jets, as we know, before finishing his career in Chicago. There, he never really did much better than the Steelers. He had a lot less yards. Had 8 touchdowns, quietly had eight touchdowns in 2011. I think that was the year that Brandon Marshall was over there I might be mistaken in that. He might still be with the Bronx at that time. But you see over the course of his career, 6,000 yards, an average of 15.5, 36 TDs, catch of 53%. This is why I say we want George Pickens to better this, particularly with what we've seen on tape. But if his rookie year comes out, I don't know, super scan. If his rookie year comes out and he's got the best part of 4,000 yards, averaging 16 yards per reception, and has we probably want to see a bit more than 20 TDs, but if he has 30 TDs, or 30, let's say 32, averaging 8 per year, and they had 4. Yeah, so let's call it 30, even 20, 25. That's a really good rookie contract and rookie performance or performance on his rookie deal from George Pickens. So, as I said, I love that he's learning from San Antonio Holmes. I love that he's expanding his route tree, which is what Kenny Pickett talked about in one of the first training sessions. He talked about that with Peter King from NBC. I love as well that this can be a benchmark for him on what he's got to do better. How can he? Now, interestingly, George Pickens had the 52 receptions last year off, I think it was 84 targets. Versus 84 targets. That's basically what San Antonio Holmes had in his second year, where he had 85 targets, 52 receptions, but he had a whole extra 130 yards because you had that league leading average there and 8 TDs. So that's pretty much the goal, Steeler fans, is George Pickens needs to catch 65% of his passes, maybe catch 60 receptions off 80, 90 targets, try and get above 16 yards per reception, and try and get 8 TDs. That'd be a killer year from him. I'm excited to see year 2 of George Pickens. I know you guys are too. As always, go Steelers.